Saints fans and who that's from all over the world. It's time for the Bayou Blitz with your hosts, Bob Rose and Kyle T. And special guests, Willie, Whitehead of the Saints.
Happy Wednesday, New Orleans Saints fans of the NFL, and especially fans of the Bayou Blitz. We want to thank you again for having us into your homes and over your airwaves again on a beautiful Wednesday evening. I am Bob Rose. As my partner in crime, Mr. Mosley, suggested, I am one of your co-hosts for the Bayou Blitz tonight, and we hope everybody is having a safe and wonderful late, I guess it's still mid-August week. And how is yourself and your family, Mr. Mosley, sir?
Okay, well, so you said it's beautiful outside. It is pouring down rain in here. Look, the lightning has been striking for the past 30 minutes, and I'm just praying it doesn't hit the house and doesn't hit us while we're on the broadcast.
Well, yeah, we certainly pray for your safety first and foremost. And secondly, we'd like the lightning gremlins to stay away from our show for at least the next hour or so, because we've got an exciting one lined up for you. Like you said in the promo, we will be joined in a handful of minutes by former Saints defensive lineman and our friend Willie Whitehead. So we're looking forward to getting caught up with him, picking his brain not only of his own career, own fantastic career, but what he saw from the New Orleans Saints thus far in training camp, and specifically in Friday night's preseason opener. But before we bring him in for his thoughts, Kyle, what are some good and bad things that stuck out to you from the preseason opener against the Minnesota Vikings on Friday night?
Well, let's talk about the good. Teddy Bridgewater, 14 of 19, 134 yards, 1 touchdown, a rating of 110. Teddy was on fire, man. He was zipping those balls out, and he was passing like he was in Louisville. So I was like, look at Teddy B go. So I was very pleased with that. But I think also, Saints fans, we got to be encouraged about what we saw with Mr. Eric McCoy. Eric McCoy really did a great job. I believe he was in on around 28 snaps for the Saints on offense. He handled the blocking assignments for run as well as pass. He didn't get one pressure on pass. He did have a couple of pancakes on the blocking assignments. And if you ever have an opportunity to listen to NFL Network's Brian Baldinger, man, he did a great breakdown on Eric McCoy and the upside for his career is just going to be very high. And, you know, in Baldy, he really gives really great breakdowns and how people can analyze a player's effectiveness, and he is very high on him, and as well as I'm. So I really liked what I saw out of those two guys, as well as a couple other people here and there as well.
Hey, well, let's start with Bridgewater. I agree with you. I thought Teddy looked sharp. He had good pocket presence and pocket awareness. He seemed very confident in his reads. I personally would like to see him go down the field a little bit more often. But if you look closer at the game, Saints fans, he was, and I know his nickname, one of his nicknames is Check Down Teddy. And he did throw a lot of check down and shorter routes. But if you watch the game a second time, look to see where his eyes go first. And he was looking downfield. So I take that as an encouraging sign, at least for him. Kind of an onus against the receiving core, which we'll get into in a minute. McCoy and you and I have both said from the day that the Saints drafted him that this man was drafted to be an immediate starter, and anything short of that would be at least a minor disappointment. And I think barring anything mind-blowing, I think he has got an all but virtual lock on the starting center job for opening day. And he did. I agree with you, Kyle. He did look really impressive. And remember, this Minnesota's defensive line is no fluke. They are one of the better defensive front sevens in the entire league. And I realize the starters on both sides did not play. Most of the starters on both sides did not play very much, if at all. But the Vikings have a deep defensive line as well. So, I mean, he was tested right off of the bat, and I thought he performed well. As far as the defensive side of the football, there's some things that this team needs to get shored up and quickly. I'm not ready to panic yet because, again, as we just said, a lot of the starters took the night off or very close to it. But I was very disappointed in the unit as a whole, their gap control and backside containment. I thought both were poor and led to some broken plays. But again, once the starting 11 is on the field and they begin putting their game plans into place, that's the kind of thing that we don't see from the Saints defense in the last 2 years, and I doubt we see it by opening day.
Well, I kind of pause on the defense as well. And I only pause on the defense because I understand everybody is not going to be at full capacity, especially the first game of the season. However, the one thing that really struck me, and it was a glaring problem for most of the people, the analysts, I heard Pat Swilling talk about it, was the lack of pressure from that front four. Now, Cam Jordan wasn't in there, right? So what a lot of people were keying in on was, what would Mr. Davenport do? He didn't do as much as we thought he was going to have an opportunity to do, especially when the second and third string guys came in to play for the Vikings, at quarterback. So that was what I would give I would give him a C minus right there. But as far as that whole defensive line, I just didn't see them gel as well as they could at this time. Now, Malcolm Brown, he did fairly well. He did have some glimpses of and flashes from the other gentlemen that we brought in as well. But, I mean, if we're going to really be honest, man, I think we've got to really look at the secondary.
Yeah.
And that really brought me to kind of wonder what's going on with those guys. And Lattimore, he wasn't challenged that much. I think he only had one tackle the whole game. They only targeted his side a couple of times. But P.J. Williams, he didn't look himself. I know he's battling with Patrick Robinson right now. The one kid that did look very good was CGJ, the law firm. Courtney Gordon Johnson, and he really did a very, very good job, in my opinion. And that's about it, man. I mean, I like what I saw of Caden Ellis. I liked his passion. I like what Beagle was doing. At least they were hustling. Trey Hendrickson was putting some pressure from time to time, but we've got to clean up some things, and I'm pretty sure challenging the Chargers this week in head-to-head is going to be fun to watch and fun to see what comes out of it. Mario Edwards, that's who did very well. I thought he did very well for the Saints as well, man. So those are just some of the immediate names that come to my mind.
No, I agree with you. I thought Mario Edwards had a really good game. Trey Hendrickson played some solid football, and I think that was encouraging to see from both of those guys up front. Hey, listen, either one of them are not going to be 10 or 12 sack per year guys, but we need them. We need the depth along that defensive line to generate a little bit of pressure. So I thought that was encouraging. You mentioned Caden Ellis and Vince Beagle, and I also thought that Darnell Sankey played one whale of a football game as well. Again, they have to contain their backside or maintain their backside containment a little bit better. I think all three of those men got caught a couple of times in over pursuit, but I liked how active and athletic that they were, and it just goes to show us that the Saints are again going to have a deep and athletic linebacking core, because none of those three guys are going to challenge for a starting spot, but it's just going to be nice to have some depth at that unit for a change. The secondary on the back end, I couldn't agree with you more. And I wrote about it in a piece from in the Canal Street Chronicles leading up to the game, and a piece that I have coming up tomorrow as well, previewing the Chargers' not only game, but joint scrimmages that the two are going to have against each other. My number one thing to watch personally is the entire secondary. And just this team, the Saints team, has to avoid the slow start on the back end that they got off to last year. Otherwise, it could spell trouble for the 2019 season. Lattimore, I'm not necessarily worried about. We didn't expect to see a whole lot of snaps from him, and we didn't. Eli Apple surprisingly played well into the game. But P.J. Williams and Patrick Robinson. Now, before I say this, let's be fair. Both of their roles are primarily going to be in the slot. But whenever either Robinson or Williams was put on an outside position, they look completely lost. And that really concerns me. That brought back nightmares of the first month, 6 weeks of last year. And that's something that this Saints team cannot afford again. Gardner Johnson and Saquon Hampton, both of them had solid games and continue to shine in practice. But that whole secondary, like you mentioned it with this Chargers team, Melvin Gordon is going to, their running back, Melvin Gordon, continues to sit out due to a contract dispute. But that team has a deep receiving core and a quarterback in Phillip Rivers who does not hesitate to challenge teams over the top. So this is going to be a real test for this secondary, and I'm really anxious to see how they handle it. Not only the starting unit, but the backups as well. I want to see how deep this secondary is.
Well, not only how deep the secondary would play, and I kind of don't want to disagree with you, and I do have to disagree. Eli Apple looked a little bit lost, in my opinion. That pass to Thielen, I know he got caught up in the lights of the dome and everything, but it still echoed to me some of the deficiencies in his game. He's letting guys get past him. Well, Thielen can get past most people in the NFL, right? But it just seemed like he was kind of lost himself, And I just want to see how, if he goes against Keenan Allen and all those guys that they have, and Mike Williams, how will he perform against a bigger, stronger wide receiver that the Chargers have? So let's see, man. Like I say, it was just the first preseason game, but I just don't want to keep on seeing the same mistakes occur time and time again.
Yeah, absolutely. That can be frustrating. And listen, we know the murderer's row that the Saints face right off of the bat. They can't afford to get off to a slow start, to the season. And, granted, and I couldn't agree with you more, it is only one preseason game. But we need to see improvement from all of these players as the preseason progresses. And there were certainly some things that concern us. Don't misunderstand, Kyle and I, Saints fans. We're not selling out, trying to sell you a bill of goods of gloom and doom right off of the bat. We're just kind of highlighting some things that concerned us as we were watching the game. Be honest with you, and I know, Kyle, you feel the same way I do. I ignore what the final score is. I look at each unit and certain players as the game goes along. And seeing how they perform and how that may translate to in this case, 2019 regular season. And these were just some things that concerned us. That's all leading up. But we saw some encouraging things too. And, that's something that we hope that the team builds on going forward. I don't know about you. I'm certainly not even close to being ready to change my tune. I still think that this is an extremely deep and talented roster. And especially on the back end of the roster, there are still some key roster spots that are going to be up for grabs. And these guys all played hard and competitive Friday night, and that's what you like to see.
Right. That's what you like to see. I like the fact that there was an edge of competitiveness down the stretch with the third string guys, especially. Mm-hmm. You saw guys who really want to try to make the team. Cyril Grayson, the Harris with the punt returns, very good punt returner from the first game. Now, what's going to translate this game? But Cyril Grayson, I think we've got to find a spot for him somewhere on the team. That's all I can say right there. Because, let's be honest. You talked about Teddy didn't have much of opportunity, in my opinion, though, Bob, to really look down the field much. So,
right.
If I look at what Cyril brings to the table, we need another burner. Right now, we have some really good mid-range guys, and Drew, thrives on that. But we need somebody who can stretch that field every now and then.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I love Cyril Grayson's ball game. He showed me a lot on Friday night. He led the team in receiving yards with 42 on 2 receptions. But I'm looking past the stats. There were 2 plays where where the ball was in another receiver's hands, and you saw this kid really hustling downfield to make a block.
Yeah,
that is the kind of thing that sticks out to coaches. Trust me.
Yeah.
The one catch that Grayson made along the right sideline, he showed such fantastic body control, footwork, and concentration to bring that ball in. I don't remember if it was a Taysom Hill throw or a Teddy Bridgewater throw, but whoever the quarterback was put it in the only location that he had to, where it was either going to be incomplete or a spectacular catch got made, and Grayson turned it into a spectacular catch. So that really impressed me. And then a play that Sean Payton, and you could see Coach Payton just salivating at this opportunity. The play ended up being nullified, I think, by a false start. Or by a holding penalty, but the ball got into Grayson's hands on an end around, and that young man is just electric in the open field. As is Deontay Harris, as he showed us on I think 3 or 4 kick returns, like you already mentioned. If either one of these guys could make a mark in the kick returning game, that makes an already dangerous New Orleans Saints team. That gives them another bona fide scoring option, and that just makes them so strong.
Yeah, makes them strong. But also, you can see where Grayson can fill in that role that Mike had for the team for a long time, and he's gone. So let's get another young guy who has that speed to kind of be the change of pace guy. And I think we have Willie in with us in the studio. Willie Whitehead, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, how you doing? This is Kyle and Bob.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good, man. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. I'm good.
Thank you so much for joining us, Willie. Saints fans, this is former Saints defensive lineman and the fan favorite, and certainly a favorite of Kyle and I, Willie Whitehead. I want to thank you for taking a couple minutes out of your time, Willie. What you been up to these days?
Oh, well, I mean, I've been working on a lot of things. There's a couple of things, really. I have a book coming out this fall, personal development book called Fix Your Focus. I'm doing a lot doing a lot of speaking. I'll be starting doing some corporate workshops, helping businesses with team performance and resilient leadership and just how to do things, the proper way, Saints way, and just doing a lot more speaking engagements, my nonprofit. And still working my training business, helping guys, take their game to the next level. But I'm really excited about this next chapter of my life. So
it definitely sounds exciting, and I know you've been doing motivational speaking, mostly on the corporate level and as business models, right?
Yes. And I'm going to start now doing it, not only that, but doing more inspirational speaking as well, at universities and just different venues. So I'm really, really excited about that. Just teaching people how to be resilient, how to push through adversity.
Oh, good. For our listeners, tell people how they can find you and how they could go about booking you for an engagement.
Yes. You can go on williewhitehead.com and get all my info. Hold on 1 second.
Okay. Sound like Willie had a a William incident going on.
he might have. He told me a couple of days ago that this would be a good time for him, that his kids are in bed, and I laughed and I said, well, mine isn't.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, guys.
That's all right.
Oh, yes. If you're interested in booking me, it's williewhitehead.com, or you can call our office at 470-280-4251, or go to info at the WWF.org. And we our consulting business firm is called The Balance Lens, and so I've partnered with an awesome gentleman named Jose Bright that's done a lot of stuff and works with a lot of government organizations and done a lot of work in South Africa. So it's amazing. He's done a lot of amazing stuff. TED Talks, the whole nine. So we've partnered, and we're going to be doing a lot of corporate workshops and just teaching people how to help take their business to the next level.
Awesome.
And take care of those pain points. So really excited about that.
Definitely sounds exciting. Willie, obviously you're a really busy man, especially these days. But do you still keep close tabs on your Saints at all?
Oh yeah, definitely do. Coming down there sometime this season, I'll be close to Thanksgiving to sign some autographs and make an appearance. But oh yeah, definitely keep close tabs with the guys. They made some great moves. They really made some really interesting moves. So,
well, let's start with a guy who plays your former position, Marcus Davenport. A very exciting young man. I don't have to tell you what the team invested to go up and get him in the draft last season. And big things are expected from him this second year. But without Cam Jordan in the lineup on Friday night, Marcus saw a lot of double teams. And when you saw double teams in your career, how did you handle that differently as opposed to just, the single man-on-man blocking, hey, it's you against me? It's a little bit different when you're facing a double team. Did you have a specific strategy when you faced multi-team blocking?
Well, just it's kind of hard when you're dealing with double teams. Be honest with you. Well, a lot of times, the best you can do is really just try to split that double team, and just focus on one guy. And try to focus on splitting it, beating one guy, and getting free. But double teams are hard, especially if when you're trying to get to the quarterback. It's a tough situation, but it's a growing process for him. So he's got to learn to push through it. Because I know that's something that Cam is dealt with a number of times. So it's a maturity process for him. He's still a young player in the league, so it's still a lot that he has to learn. But he's got tremendous talent, so I'm sure he's gonna get it together and really take his game to a whole nother level.
How much of it is a mental side to the game? I mean, obviously, and you can relate because you had so much physical ability when you played as well. But Marcus, he's in his second year, and he came from such a small college. Did you, when you were in this position yourself, when you were in your, say, second or even third year, was there a point where you said, you know what, I am absolutely freezing myself by overthinking, and I just got to go out and play? Is there a time when that switch gets turned?
Yes, it really does. That's a great question. Bring up a good point. It comes to a point where you have to just allow the game to come to you and just get into a state of flow, where you, because a lot of times guys, they overthink things, they get, like too intensely focused, worrying about, what happened the last play, when they really should just allow the game to come to them and and kind of even during the game, take a minute to get off focus, but just really just not put so much pressure on yourself and just allow the game to come to you, because a lot of times guys get frustrated because they're not getting the sacks, they're not making the plays, and they beat themselves up because of it. But that's the time when you have to kind of let it go and realize that they're going to come. I just have to, like I say, allow the game to come to me. I have to just continue to play, and when the opportunity arise, take advantage of it. So, and it's easy. Yeah, I've done it a number of times, so it's easy to do because you want to be so productive, and you want to reach that number, the number of sacks. You want to get to that number. Yeah.
Hey, Willie, I
have
a question.
Paralysis by analysis, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I have a question, Willie. Like, after the preseason game, do you guys grade one another, or is it just the coaches grading you guys?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. It's more the coaches grading us more than anything. It's kind of different because with the veterans, you just want to get through the preseason. To be honest with you. You're just like, man, I'm ready to get to the regular season. You like, it's you see it as it's kind of tuned up, but then in a way, it's for the veterans, it's kind of pointless. It's just like, I'm ready to get to the real deal. So, for the rookies, it's different, because you're working to make the team, or to, if you're a player that's kind of on the bubble, you're trying to make sure that you hold on to your position. So, but the starting guys, Cam and other guys, he's just like, man, I want to get through this so I can get to game one, and really turn it on, so.
And I was going to ask you a question similar to what Kyle asked you too, and you sort of answered it. When you're an established veteran like this, do you even want, and be honest, do you even want a lot of reps in these preseason games?
No, you really don't. I'm gonna be real honest with you, and majority of veterans there, but yeah, you really don't. You want to get a few reps, of course. Get tuned up and get in game shape, because the only way you can get in game shape is to actually play in games. Mm-hmm. But it's not coming from practice. It's the games, but you don't want a lot of preseason reps. And then, two, you want to risk the chance of getting hurt. So a lot of guys like, man, yeah, I just want to get through this. So, like I said, I can get to game one when it counts. For them, it's in their mind, it's like when it really counts, because that's when we're tallying up wins and we're working towards the Super Bowl, we're working towards the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah.
Did your coaches sort of approach that the same way, with you veterans? Like you said, the coaches are kind of on a different level than what you guys are, as far as, they have a certain checklist that they're going through, undoubtedly. But in the case of yourself, especially once you've been in the league a couple of years, you were established, you were a part of a terrific defensive line. Did your coaches kind of understand where you guys were coming from, and basically were concentrating on other areas that they wanted to build up during the preseason?
Well, you had some that did, but there's some that didn't, because they were more concerned about the game plan and where certain guys fit into their scheme, and just really getting the synergy together and getting the plays down and running them, and everything running smoothly. So it's a little different for some coaches. You have a few that understand, and even some that play to understand. Like, hey man, I get where you're at, and you want to just go ahead and get through this. So I'm gonna make sure I kind of take care of you, because I need you healthy, because your production is great for my job.
True.
Exactly. So I want to make sure that you're at your best because it's going to keep me employed.
Hey, that's real. That's real, man.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
You make me look good, I'll make you look good. You make me look bad, you sitting on the bench, baby.
Exactly. And even some of the veteran guys have been there for a long time. They gotta let them kind of do some self checking, with themselves.
Mm-hmm. Tell us, Willie, and Saints fans, if you're just tuning in, we're joined by former Saints defensive end Willie Whitehead. Willie, you were a part of a terrific defense. Anybody who studies the Saints, if the term defense is brought up, the first thing they think of, and I suppose rightfully so, is those dome patrol units of the Jim Mora years. But your defense through the late 90s and early 2000s were every bit as productive and dominant, if not more so, especially you guys along the front seven. But tell us what kind of different mentality. You started with the Saints in 1999, the last year of the Mike Ditka era. And then the following season, of course, you were a part of that miraculous 2000 New Orleans Saints run where they notched their first franchise playoff victory. Is there a lot of difference in the mentality from that 99 to 2000 team going into the season as opposed to you had some success in 2000 leading into 2001? Tell us what kind of different mentality existed.
Well, I think really it's because the game was a little different. It affected the mentality a little bit, just the overall, now the way things move so quickly as far as, guys getting moved to different teams and the whole process, guys kind of, they kind of make sure that they look out for themselves now and kind of take care, they kind of watch, to take, better care of their bodies and, kind of do things a little differently. I know during that time we're a little more reckless, but yeah. But it was a different time. I mean, it was a little more, more of guys kind of, it was a little more loyalty to the guys staying true to where they were. But now, I mean, it's the game has changed. It's become more of a business. So guys have to really look out for themselves. I mean, and the guys still have that hunger and that determination, but you kind of watching things now. You're not as reckless. You're kind of looking at, okay, let me play this a little bit, a little smarter. Let me play this a little differently because I got to stay healthy. Because they looking around, looking over my shoulder, like it's different. It's a different game now. So guys, I think, are looking more at, let me look more at taking care of my health so I can have more longevity, so I can stay under contract. So it's a little different, but.
Do you miss it at all? Do you miss the game, the locker room?
Yes. I think one thing, I miss the locker room, being around the guys, doing anything, because we were a tight-knit group, and we hung out together a lot. More, we were really a family. And I'm sure, like I said, the guys today, they really get together and hang out, a lot as well. But yeah, that's the main thing. Really, is just the camaraderie, with the guys and the coaches. But we were a tight knit group, and looking out for each other on and off the field. Guy made a mistake. We took took the slack, and we just looked out for each other, and that's what made us a really good unit. That's what makes a great unit is guys not getting so caught up in their stats as much as looking out for each other, because if you win and I win, we all win, So it's not a whole bunch
and you know
of stuff.
what? Yeah, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. That what you just said, it really showed out on the field too, especially that deep defensive line and linebacking core you guys had. I remember different announcers and watching you guys play. Different announcers, would refer to you guys as a pack of wild dogs when it came to getting into the offensive backfield, and I'm sure there was probably at least a friendly competition between all you guys in the locker room as far as who gets more sacks, who gets more tackles for losses, et cetera. Tell us who the most competitive guys in that locker room were when you played.
The most competitive, I would have to say Leroy Glover. Who else? Leroy, Joe Johnson. Those guys are really competitive. They went after it. I know, and you had, I know big, Darren Howard, Norman Hand. But, yeah, I say Leroy and Joe really wanted some of the, most competitive guys. I mean, Leroy went after it. And he was serious. So he was really competitive with us on that line. So, but I mean, we had a number of great players.
Willie, you went through. Let me think. Yeah, you went through two different head coaching changes when you were in New Orleans. Like we already mentioned, you were on Ditka's last team before they brought in Jim Haslett. And then you were on Sean Payton's first New Orleans Saints team in 2006 when they moved on from Coach Haslett. When they made that decision, and you were part of maybe the most tumultuous Saints team in history, or right up there, because you of course were on that the 2005 Saints unit that was displaced because of Hurricane Katrina, and you guys had played such a major role in helping the community rebuild. When the organization made the move, to move on from Coach Haslett, how did you guys feel about that in the locker room? Were you kind of in agreement with it? Did you feel that a change needed to be made?
Well, we really know how to feel. It's just we felt that a lot needed to be changed. Because coming from 2005 and dealing with that year, a lot of guys were really ready for a fresh start. So we didn't know what that looked like, what really needed to be done, but we were just ready for something different, and it was time, because that was a rough year, for a professional organization. And, we had a lot of emotions and a lot of guys, we were going through a lot. So Coach Payton brought a fresh change to the organization. And it brought a sense of pride and a sense of like, I guess we would say, like a new level of like a higher level of excellence. He held everybody accountable, and coming from New York, he brought a mindset of putting the organization in the first class status. Where when he came in, it's like, no, these guys things need to be first class. These guys play at a first class level. They need to be treated first class. So that was really a tremendous change, and I think it was the main thing that helped change the whole organization because it was a new mindset, and everybody was held accountable.
Did you feel like right away, because that was Sean's first head coaching opportunity, definitely in the NFL after being a coordinator for many years? Did you feel like right away, hey, this guy's going to be something special and going to do something special with this organization?
Yes. Yeah, I saw it. Right after, like I said, the first meeting and. The way he was approaching things, he was really approaching things, from a really breaking things down from a whole very serious approach, but very respectful. He respected the veterans, he respected guys, he demanded respect, but he held everybody accountable. It wasn't, I'm look out for this guy, but this guy, he can give him some leeway. No, you either follow the rules or you deal with the consequences. They didn't care if you were a 12-year veteran or what. He held everybody accountable, and that's the thing. I loved about him was the fact that you knew what to expect from Coach Payton, no matter what. It wasn't one way or the other. He held the same for everybody. So you can respect that, because you trust his word. What he tells you is what it's going to be.
Willie, do you believe that this Saints team is a legitimate Super Bowl contender? Are they going to be able to, as competitors, are they going to be able to move past that disappointing loss in the NFC Championship game?
Oh yes, definitely. I really believe that we can take it all the way this year. They brought in some great talent, and like I said, we really should have been there last year, but I think it's a different hunger now, and I think it's all about the key is that they're going to have to build off of last year. Don't forget about last year. You have to build off success. And so I think they have to build off of and just keep that chip on their shoulders that it was a sour taste that was still left, in our mouths, and that we got to build off that and take and finish it. So
is it easier for a player, for a competitor, such as yourself, to use that kind of thing, that kind of disappointment as a motivation rather than kind of dwelling on it, say like a thing? Hey, is it easier for the player to move on using it as a motivation than, say, the fan base?
I think so. I think so. For most players, everybody's different, but for most players at this stage, I think it's easier because you're feeling the energy of the other guys around you, and you keep that, you're motivated. You have that energy around you that, now we got a chip on our shoulders, man. We knew what happened. We know what happened to us. So we're going to have to hone in and take this thing to the next level. So I think it'll show in the preparation, the extra work that's put in, and it's gonna show itself on the field. 'Cause I think those guys are gonna really put in the work because they, it's a big motivator for the, like I said, for the players more than anything, because the guys are in it. So then, their energy is contagious.
Wow, good. Willie, you've given us some great stuff tonight. We really appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule. Tell our fans one more time how they can track you down, and especially if they want to book you for any motivational speaking engagements.
Yes. They can go to WillieWhitehead.com or call our office at 470-280-4251. Or you can email me at email us at info at the WWF.org. That's info at the WWF.org for booking. And like I said, if your business that wants to, take your employees and your management to business next, we offer great plans and great workshops. So.
Yeah. Sounds exciting, and definitely by all means, anything that you got going on, especially you mentioned your book coming out in the fall, post it on our Bayou Blitz page as well, or let Kyle and I know. We would love to promote it as much as we possibly can.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Bob. I appreciate it.
All right.
It's my pleasure.
Good talking to you again, Willie.
My friend. Hopefully we can catch up with each other again during the regular season.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's going to be a fun time, so I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely looking forward to it. It's going to be a great season.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Enjoy the rest of your night, Willie. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome. Take care, man.
Take care.
Okay. Oh, Saints fans, that was defensive end Willie Whitehead. The New Orleans Saints gave us some great years between 1999 and 2006, and some great insight not only into those great defenses, but what he sees out of the Saints right now. Definitely always looking forward to catching up with him, and he gave us some great stuff tonight.
Yeah, it's always good to get a player's perspective of what's going on in their minds,
Mm-hmm.
But it was also good to hear him talk about that mental shift and the energy and the cultural shift that occurred between Haslett and those guys and more. I mean, Haslett and Peyton. So it's just good to kind of hear that. It was a different approach, a different way of thinking. And, those years that he had under Parcells, being groomed, for a role as a head coach was really great. And look, I remember when he was interviewing, right? And he went up to Green Bay, and Green Bay decided to go with McCarthy.
Yeah.
And that was a blessing for us, man. Just like when Miami decided to go with someone else other than Drew Brees. That was a blessing for us, because he could have been up there with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, and we could have been down here with who knows who. So it was good for us in the long run, and I really do appreciate that. But one thing, I'm going to say this, is that when we look at the 13 years that Drew Brees and Sean Payton have been together, and I know Jeff Duncan is writing a book on this, right, about how efficient they were as a tandem. We have been blessed, because I know growing up we've had some dog years and we have had some major disappointments. Just to be able to see the Saints get to a Super Bowl, that's all we were hoping for, Bob, growing up, was can we even win a playoff game? And then it became, okay, can we get to a Super Bowl? And Sean Payton, his first year, those guys were on the brink, brink of going to a Super Bowl in the NFC Championship the first year, and we keep forgetting about that. That was a great accomplishment, Unfortunately, we went up to Chicago on that cold day, but and we made some major mistakes with Colston fumbling the ball, and I think Breeze had an interception, and we saw the mistakes happen, but those guys learned from it. They thought they were going to get back immediately. They learned it's not easy to get back immediately to it. So that's why I believe, if you look fast forward now, disappointing ending in Minnesota, disappointing ending as the refs in the NFL blew it all together. But we've got to be the ones controlling our destiny. that's why New England is favorites year in, year out, is because they're not really allowing their fate to be in the hands of someone else. You know, that first Super Bowl year with that tuck thing, that was a lucky deal, right? But you've got to control your own destiny. You have to be the one to say to yourself as a team, let's do our jobs. And if we would have put at least four more points on the board that first drive, the second drive, it could have been a different story, you see, instead of settling for field goals. So we've got to have that mentality. And what concerned me this first preseason game, I know I'm talking a lot, but this first preseason game was the opportunities the Saints gave themselves but didn't capitalize. That's what concerned me.
Yeah, and it was good, and we are blessed to have a field goal kicker such as Will Lutz that was able to convert some of those opportunities into points. But you're right. Sean Payton and Pete Carmichael's the offensive coordinator in that locker room are telling me, I guarantee you're right, are telling these guys, look, we have to finish these drives. Finish. And the best Sean Payton teams have always been, and I harken back to that 2011 juggernaut that he had, when they had an opportunity to put their foot on the throats of an opponent, they never, ever let up. And I think that's what these coaches have got to be telling these offensive players. And it doesn't matter whether you're first, second, or third string. Hey, if you guys want to make the team, for some of you guys, and for others of you that are established, if you want to put a second ring or a second trophy on this championship case, or in a lot of your cases, a first ring on your finger, you have to finish opportunities. And it does start with you can't just press the fast forward button and end up in the playoffs. You have to take advantage of your opportunities in practice, in scrimmages, and even in preseason games where it may not count in the standings. And that's what these guys are. I promise you, that's what they've been preaching to these offensive players in particular all week. But defense too, because defense had an opportunity to make a few plays during the course of the game and failed. And Minnesota was able to keep drives alive. And that is not going to fly in the regular season. That's going to add up. Those missed opportunities are going to add up to an L in the loss column.
We're playing highly competitive teams early and often this season. Those guys want a shot at the crown just like we do. We cannot go in half-cocked. I hope these guys, these next two games, especially against the Chargers, that they learned how to be highly competitive. They've got to be highly competitive. They cannot allow themselves to kind of wing it, man. And that's what concerned me more than anything else. Getting close to but not capitalizing on has always been an issue. And right now, it has to be where we're doing our job. You know, it's difficult to always say do your job 100%, right, Bob? And let's be for real. But do your job where it's so necessary that you don't have to depend upon a turnover. You don't have to depend upon, let's see if the other team is going to make a mistake, you know, or refs if we're going to get the call or not. You know, just do what we have to do. That's all I'm saying. And Dan Arnold, bless his heart, but you've got to catch that ball, man. You know?
Yeah.
You've got to catch the ball. If you don't catch the ball, you're going to be sent home. Bottom line. And, you know, he had a good touchdown. That was a great passionate stretch for the touchdown, but then you come back with a whoop-de-whoop. Nah. You got to catch that ball.
Well, and Dan continues to look kind of lost in the open field. He has the physical ability to be a good, or at least a solid receiving tight end. But you just pointed out the inconsistencies that he showed us in last game alone, from play to play. And he's in a real fight for his job. We all realize that Jared Cook is going to be the starting tight end, and Josh Hill is going to, and his outstanding blocking skills. There's definitely a role for him. But the team's probably going to carry 3 tight ends, and they brought in Alize Mack, a kid that you and I are both fond of as far as his athletic ability.
Yeah,
we're looking forward to seeing him onto the field, though.
Yes,
which is something that we've not seen yet. Go ahead.
Yeah. Look, the best ability is availability.
Yep.
Right? And he's injured. I don't know what's the extent of the injury, because the Saints keep that very hush-hush. But obviously there's a problem where they would not have brought in the guy from the Broncos, was it Irby or somewhere?
Irby, yeah.
And I think another tight end as well, if there wasn't a serious issue there with Alize Mack. I would not be surprised if he does not return by next week that Alize Mack would go on IR.
IR, yep. And we see it from this team every year. And Sean Payton and the Saints are not the only team that uses this kind of strategy. If they like a guy, but they sort of question whether he might have a roster spot for this upcoming season, a minor injury will land a guy on injured reserve, where they can stash him, without leaving him available to the practice squad. Now, we're not suggesting any improprieties. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It's just a strategy that many NFL teams use. And I agree with you. I think that there's a reason why they brought in A.J. Derby, who I thought played pretty well against Minnesota. He doesn't have the natural receiving ability that a Dan Arnold does, but he can get the job done in the intermediate routes, and he's a solid blocker. So Mr. Arnold's job is in real trouble, even if Mack doesn't get back onto the field, because he's going to have to hold off Derby for that third tight end spot at this point, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's why they play the games, right? And if you can show up well when it counts, and that's on the field in not practice environment, but actually showing up on the field in the right environment, you're going to do well in this league. Mm-hmm. That's why you look at I'm very anxious to see with Harris as well as Grayson, if they're able to contribute again and have a good repeat performance these next 2 games, man. And then you look at that bubble game on the 4th game of the season, and who's really going to be able to make those really limited roster spots, right? So, Saints fans, all I got to say is this, man. We got some talent in this team this year, and the depth is not a concern like it was in years prior. I just think there's some room for improvement, that if Sean Payton doesn't see certain things, let's say out of that tight end spot, or doesn't see something that he likes in the cornerback spots and what have you, there are going to be some guys that are going to be given their walking papers, or they're going to have some vets that are going to be cut that they may have to give some opportunities or some looks to, man. And, that's just the realities of life. Look what happened to Rashard Matthews. Guy, I guess he didn't like how his role was going. Good receiver, has had some really good training camp highlights here and there. Now he decided to retire from the NFL, man. I mean, a short career, but I thought he could have possibly been productive if he decided if he wanted to compete. Didn't look like he wanted to compete. So, like Sean Payton said, it's not for everyone.
Right, and to the point that you had made before about if certain players or even certain position groups aren't performing where the coaching staff would like them to be at this stage of training camp, they're not going to hesitate to make a move. We saw it this past week, a few days ago, when the team signed, and you and I didn't touch on something that I know drove us both crazy the other night, is the performance of the backup offensive line, especially the tackles. And what did the team do? They brought in a veteran tackle named Chris Clark. He started 13
Ron
games
Eagle.
for the Panthers last year.
He's a
what's that?
He's a McDonald 35 Ron Eagle.
Well, there you go. Hometown boy.
Hometown boy. Got a ring with the Broncos.
Clark,
yeah, go ahead.
Right. Clark has some starting experience. He started about 66 or 67 games during his 9-year career with 3 different teams. Like you pointed out, he had probably his best success with the Denver Broncos. But he is hopefully going to stabilize that backup tackle job, because you and I both know that in recent years, because of Mr. Teron Armstead and his inability to stay on the field for 16 games, that spot is a very, very important spot for the Saints offensive line. So we would my eyes are on Mr. Clark, and also Michael Ola and Marshall Newhouse, the other backup tackles, to see if they play a little bit better than what they did against Minnesota. I know we're looking for certain things from the backup and the depth spots in the game itself against the Chargers on Saturday. But these joint scrimmages on Thursday, I think they start tomorrow, but I know they definitely do it on Friday. That's where your starters are going to line up across from each other as well. So we're going to see. I look for a very feisty, intense group of Saints out on the field.
Yeah, last year, Bobby brought this up, Bobby Hebert, that the first day the Chargers really let the Saints have it, and the Saints responded the next day, Look, the Chargers are a team that a lot of people are not really remembering the fact that they went to New England and lost, and they had a chance to go to the Super Bowl. That's a good team. Phillip Rivers, people keep forgetting, he is a very talented, and I think he's an elite quarterback.
Well,
that's my opinion. Okay, all right. Well, that's my opinion, right? He's Mr. Sidearm, but he still can throw the ball.
Yeah.
I just think he hadn't had the opportunity to have a consistent offensive coordinator and offensive attack. That's the one thing I see with him. If he had someone like Sean Payton as many years as Drew Brees, you probably would have seen at least one Super Bowl win for him as well. So, look, guys, they bring in these guys, the offensive line. The first squad, I thought they did pretty good because they had a push up front, and they were knocking the tackles for the Vikings off their blocks and pushing them back 2 or 3 yards on some of those plays. So, and that was on the first couple of series. After that, it was kind of, let's see what's happening. So, look, man, I just want to see a talented, spirited performance from these guys. I want to see some smart play. I'm concerned about Marcus Williams. That play that went to Thielen, he was behind. He was behind getting help to Eli Apple, man. And if it wasn't for Apple grazing him, that was going to be a touchdown, right? Next play resulted as a touchdown anyway, but still, I'm still a little concerned about him, especially the way they say Mr. Hampton has been performing in the preseason. training camp. So we'll see how everything goes. If he's able to perform well the next couple of games, I'll feel a little bit better. But I don't know. I can't put my finger on it, Bob. Is it just he's over? Is he overthinking it? You know, because that first season he used a lot of his instincts.
Yeah. We both pointed that out about Marcus even during the season last year. Was that he just looked like a different player, we heard Willie Whitehead earlier tonight. And we were talking about the defensive line position and himself comparing to Marcus Davenport in particular. But I think what Willie said holds true for probably every position, is that at some point a switch has to come on, and you realize, you know what, I'm here in this league for a reason, and that's because of my physical abilities. I just got to go out and play. And Marcus, all last year, I agree with you, and I agreed with you then, he was often a step slow in his reactions because he doesn't seem to trust his instincts right now. And that's very worrisome for literally the last line of defense because it causes miscommunications with your cornerbacks in front of you. And when you have a guy like Eli Apple, who, and I know this drives you crazy about him, Eli is often guilty about peeking into the backfield. Now, that can result into some big plays, but you better have a trustworthy safety on that back end behind you.
Yeah, man. You look. I'm just telling you. Saquon, you look at Saquon Hampton on some of those highlight films, right? Especially the ones we put up on Saints News Network's Facebook page. You look at how that kid responds and the speed he has. He's faster than Marcus. He has the same size. Marcus might be a little bit larger, but that kid has some range to him, man. I'm just saying, I would not be surprised if Marcus does start the year at starter, but if we see some some problems here or there, you may see Saquon Hampton, man, a little bit more. They're going to have to probably address if Courtney Gardner-Johnson keeps performing the way he's performing, Bob. How else can he not be the nickel? Then what's really going to happen with PJ and Patrick Robinson? One of those guys is going to be a casualty, and right now PJ is outperforming Robinson.
Which should probably, and we all know how I feel about PJ Williams. He turns my hair gray.
Man, he makes me grow hair. How about that?
But Mr. Gardner-Johnson is everything you and I thought that he would be even before the draft, and then some. Now he has, you talked about Saquon Hampton's range. Gardner-Johnson has excellent range and athleticism and instincts as well. But if you're talking about a potential replacement for Marcus Williams, now remember, Saints fans, this is after one preseason game, so we realize we're projecting here a little bit. But I don't know. I think that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is better suited for the Saints defense in a role where he's not only playing center field, because he has the coverage skills to move up into that slot, like you were talking about him supplanting and probably, at least skill-wise at this point, being ahead of both Patrick Robinson and P.J. Williams. But clearly there is going to be a role in this Saints secondary for both of those rookie defensive backs. And it's just a matter of how quickly and how much they are outperforming the veterans in front of them on the depth chart.
Well, remember when the guy got into the Saints secondary, it was Gardner-Johnson that tracked him down.
Yes.
I was very impressed with that. The hustle. I was impressed with the fact that he was around the ball a lot of the times when he was on the field. You've got to look at those things and find some really good insight on his capabilities. That's all I'm saying. of course, like we all say, that's just one game. If the guy can repeat it, it becomes more than just one game. It becomes that person has a possibility of doing very well for this team. All right, Bobo. So, any last thoughts?
I think that we have covered a lot of what we each expect to see out of the Saints, in these upcoming joint scrimmages and preseason game with San Diego. So Saints fans, enjoy. Hopefully we've given you a different viewpoint into what to look for in the game itself, because I know Kyle and I both enjoyed doing it, from this perspective as well. Otherwise, we want to thank Willie Whitehead again for giving us another terrific interview. We look forward to catching up with Willie anytime or any chance we get, rather. And look for promotions for what his work is and what his upcoming book is on our pages as well. I'm excited to see what he has coming out.
Yeah, definitely. Let's support him. Don't also forget supporting Quinn Early and his project as well. Guys, it's a lot of good things out there, and let's support the community. Let's support White Flag. No more white flags with Team Gleason as well. But more than that, let's continue to pray for our country. And there's been a big shooting out there in Philadelphia, and 6 officers were shot. Let's pray for them, their families, that they're able to fully recover. And we got to do some healing. And one way we can do that, if we come together and support one another, not just with sports, but let's support one another in our communities. All right, Bobo, how can everybody find you on the World Wide Web?
Well, I'm as active can be on both Facebook and Twitter. On Facebook, I can be tracked down by my name, or at least the one I'm going to go by this week, Bob Rose. On Twitter, you can track me down at BobbyR2613. My work, of course, is through the Canal Street Chronicles and my terrific editor, John Hendricks. Canal Street Chronicles page also found on Facebook or Twitter at Saint CSC. And I have a What to Look For piece coming out in the morning about some of the things that Kyle and I talked about tonight. And I also released this morning, I did a guest piece for the fine people over at Pro Football Guru. I know I'm going to do a prediction piece, or a season preview piece, rather, for Canal Street Chronicles the week before the regular season. And, of course, Kyle and I are going to have our season preview show. But for kind of a spoiler alert, check out on my page or the Pro Football Guru page my 2019 New Orleans Saints preview that I just released this morning. Any support that you give Kyle or myself, or our pages at Canal Street Chronicles, the Saints News Network, or our Facebook page, Bayou Blitz, is always loved and appreciated. We love you guys, and thank you so much for everything you do for us.
Definitely Hoodats and Saints fans from all over the world. That is great to support one another. And let's also give each other some love by passing on the information of what Bob and those guys at Canal Street Chronicles write. But also you can be able to read on saintsnewsnetwork.com Mr. Barry Hursters and all of his featured columns. And also you can listen to Bob and I on saintspodcasts.com. And you can also just get a feel for what's going to happen in the 2019 regular season with some of the projections, as well as some of the video highlights that we're putting out there for us and our fans to follow. But also, don't forget, you can go on YouTube and find our podcast being published on YouTube at Saints News Network on our channel there on YouTube. And you can follow us on Spreaker, TuneIn, as well as iHeartRadio. So we are on very diversified channels out there. Hopefully we can get on Spotify pretty soon, man. That'll be pretty cool. So just check us out. And let's see. That's it. You can follow us on Saints at Saints News on Twitter, Instagram, as well as on Facebook. All right, Bob. Man, tell Lauren happy birthday.
Will do.
And look, Saints fans and Who-Dats, be there on this weekend to be able to root our boys in the black and gold out in L.A. That's kind of strange to say L.A. and not San Diego, you know.
I know.
to hang out with those guys, and let's make sure that they come away from their competition against the Chargers healthy and back home in one piece. This is Kyle T. Mosley of Saints News Network with Mr. Bob Rose of the Bayou Blitz. Bob, have a great weekend. Saints fans, you guys have a great weekend as well. Who that, baby? Take care. Bye.
Yeah.